Your Life and Sex Island, Chapter 6, The Life and Sex Island, page 225. We have determined that the cause of the depressions on the Life and Sex Island and in the United States was and is economic inequality. We are not the first who have determined that, and various methods have been tried to correct that terrible injustice. But some of the cures are as bad as the disease. Let us observe what our little Life and Sex Islanders do. The problem, inequality leading to massive economic and thereby governmental failures, has been solved many times in different ways. Let us begin with the more ancient and progress to the newer, and then into the future. The first solution. Our little Life and Sex Island has neither a potent guillotine nor poison and pistol, as the French and Russians did to fix their problems. But in this version, what they did was to form a committee among the outsiders, those not in communion with Trader Mac, to select a time and a place to Ides of March them. Things had been calm for a week or two, and Trader Mac and his guards had become careless. They slept. The committee stormed the Bastille. That is, they pounced on Trader Mac and the insiders as they slept and tied them up. There was no need for a trial. Everyone knew who was at fault for the collective misery of the times. The only question then to be settled, without a guillotine, poison, or pistol, was how to eliminate the problem permanently. They did have spears and stones, but they decided on a more merciful method. It was actually less merciful, but since they could leave it to nature or the gods, they temporarily fooled themselves into thinking that their souls could claim innocence. The committee placed the tied-up men in rush boats, one each day, and towed them to the leeward side of the island, where the waves were moving away from the island, and the rush boats would ride the waves to distant sea. Everyone knew from experience that within 10 or 20 sunrises, the rush boats would disintegrate and the men would become seafood. By releasing the condemned men one per day, it was made highly unlikely that they could regroup and return. In fact, none of the men were ever heard from again. Only I survived to be washed up on the distant shores and write this book. I was almost drowned, but washed up exhausted on the beach in Malibu, where I was discovered and nursed back to health by a bevy of starlets who took me in and made me pay them back with sex. Maybe. You can't be sure. But every time the wind whispered through the palm trees, or the volcano rumbled, the islanders lay awake, staring at the stars, and thought of what they had done. I have no record of how the solution evolved the future on the Life and Sex Island. Did the people go back to bartering? Did the excess rocks cause dreadful inflation? Did they go back to using just the red rocks? How were the rocks distributed? Did they next have a Washington, or a Lenin, or a Napoleon? Or did they go back to no one in charge? It is not written. What did they deserve? And did what they deserve have any play on what they got? The results of this method of solution are unpredictable, and the method is not recommended, though sometimes it is the only non-choice. How many methods are there to get rid of a dictator or a dictating oligarchy? Consider the second solution. Now I have to backtrack. This solution is to emulate the solution to panics in the United States before the Great Depression. Consider before and during those earlier panics, there was little or no consumer credit, only real estate loans with massive down payments. So the panics were really not depressions or even recessions. They primarily involved bank sudden closures due to fraud, embezzlement, or mismanagement. In a word, greed. The common people were usually involved only to the extent that they had money in savings accounts. Saving accounts were not government insured. The hard times would simply be continuous, though they might waver a little. There was never a cure until things got so bad as to be unbearable, and there would be an upheaval of one sort or another. So, with the second solution on our little life and sex island, things, the economy, had not gotten so far out of hand. Mike or anyone else had not speculated in carved lava boats because they could not have borrowed the rocks to do so, nor had anyone hoarded the malarkey bird tail feathers. None of the islanders had borrowed rocks to purchase necessities. So though the breaking point would have come much sooner, it would not have dug so deep or been as severe. There would be hard times. People would go mad from drinking seawater. The people who were spearing the fish would never have enough to eat because they had to share with Trader Mac's minions. In short, nothing would change unless Trader Mac had an epiphany, moral insight, or death. Other than death, nothing would change Trader Mac. Nothing ever changed the czars, princes, kings, popes, mullahs, despots, Rockefellers, Mellons, Carnegies, Gateses, Buffetts, or anyone else like them. They, like the US of A rich, just kept getting worse and worse, more and more decadent, until there is a final reckoning, revolution, or surrender to an outside power. So the second solution is no solution. Just continuous hard times for years, decades, centuries, and millennia. The rich and super rich taking, and taking. And again, it is time to quit. There are 5 solutions. We'll have to come back to look at the other 3. Please join me again. And if you would, please purchase the book, Your Life in Sex Island, by clicking on the link in the description below. Thank you for being here.